The elevator in your building takes exactly 11 seconds from the lobby to the fourth floor. You know this because you timed it once. Standing in the back corner with your laptop bag and a coffee, watching the floor numbers change while Derek from accounting complained about the parking situation to nobody in particular. Derek complains about the parking situation every morning. What Derek does not know, what nobody on the fourth floor knows, is that the parking situation is, technically, your fault. You raised the monthly rate by $40 6 weeks ago. Not out of malice, just math. The previous rate hadn't been adjusted in 4 years, and 4 years of inflation doesn't care about Derek's feelings about parking. You nodded along when he mentioned it in the break room. You said, "Yeah, that's rough." You meant it, mostly. Your name is on the lease of this building the way your name is on a lot of things. Quietly, through an LLC that sounds like a law firm and gives nothing away. Harwick Property Holdings. Nobody Googles it. Nobody has a reason to. You are, as far as the fourth floor is concerned, a mid-level financial analyst at Crestwood Capital Management, which occupies floors 3 and 4 of a 7-story Class B office building in the River North neighborhood of Chicago. You have been a mid-level financial analyst at Crestwood for 2 years and 4 months. You have owned the building they work in for 2 years and 1 month. The timing was not planned. It was just how it happened. And you have thought more than once about how that particular fact would land if you ever said it out loud in the fourth floor kitchen while someone was making their oatmeal. You haven't. You won't. But you've thought about it. The building came to you the way most things worth having come to you. Not through a grand moment of inspiration, but through a Tuesday evening, a cold bowl of leftover pasta, and a property listing that a contact named Raymond forwarded with the subject line, "Thought this might interest you. Probably not your thing." Raymond was wrong. It was absolutely your thing. The building was listed at $4.1 million. A 7-story mixed-use commercial property, Class B, built in 1987, last renovated in 2011. 4 floors of office tenants, 2 floors of light commercial, 1 floor of storage that had been generating exactly 0 revenue for 8 months because the previous owner, a 71-year-old man named Arthur, who had bought the building in 1999 and managed it with the organizational rigor of someone who had genuinely stopped caring around 2017, had never bothered to find a tenant for it. Arthur's property manager had quit 14 months earlier. Arthur had not replaced him. Arthur was, by all available evidence, managing a $4 million asset with a spreadsheet that hadn't been updated since the second Obama administration. You felt a specific kind of feeling when you read the listing. Not excitement exactly. More like the feeling you get when you see someone leave a 20 on a table at a restaurant and walk away without counting it. That 20 is still a 20. It's just sitting there. You made an offer at $3.6 million. Arthur countered at $3.95 million. You came back at $3.72 million with a 30-day close and no financing contingency. Arthur accepted within 48 hours. You later found out from Raymond that Arthur had another offer at $3.8 million from a local developer, but the developer had wanted 60 days and a building inspection clause that Arthur's attorney had described as aggressive. Arthur did not want aggressive. Arthur wanted to move to Scottsdale and play golf and stop thinking about the 7th floor storage situation. You gave him that. Harwick Property Holdings closed on the building on a Thursday. You were at your desk on the 4th floor when the wire cleared. You received a confirmation email at 2:47 p.m. Subject line, transaction complete. You read it, set your phone face down, and went back to the quarterly variance report you had been working on for the past 3 hours. Your boss, a man named Richard Calloway, walked past your desk at 2:51 p.m. and asked how the variance report was coming. You told him you'd have it by end of day. He said good. He went back to his office. Richard Calloway has a corner office on the 4th floor of a building you now own. You have thought about that approximately 400 times since then. Not in a petty way, just as a fact that occasionally surfaces when he sends emails with the subject line "Quick Alignment" at 4:45 on a Friday. Here is what the building actually looked like when you took it over, because the listing photos were, charitably speaking, aspirational. The lobby had a water feature that had stopped working in 2019 and now functioned primarily as a conversation piece that nobody was having a good conversation about. The HVAC system on floors 5 and 6 was original to the building, which meant it was 37 years old and had the temperament of something that old. Functional most of the time, completely unreasonable when the weather changed. The 7th floor storage had a leak that Arthur's spreadsheet had categorized under the heading MISC, issues and then never mentioned again. The elevator, which you now ride every morning, had a service record that suggested it had been inspected enthusiastically in 2018 and then largely left to its own devices. You hired a property management firm, a sharp operation called Lakeview Asset Group. Within the first week, their lead manager, a woman named Priya, walked the building with you on a Saturday morning and made a list. The list had 23 items on it. You told her to prioritize by what would cost you money if ignored and what would cost a tenant their patience. She looked at you the way someone looks at a person who just said something so obvious it feels like a revelation. She said, "That's exactly how I think about it." You liked her immediately. The 7th floor storage lease was signed within 6 weeks. A small logistics company, 8 employees, needed clean, dry storage for product samples, didn't care about the view. Signed a 3-year agreement at $4,200 a month. That floor had been generating $0 for 8 months under Arthur. You had it generating $4,200 a month before you'd even updated your LinkedIn. Not that you updated your LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn still says financial analyst. This is deliberate. The HVAC on floors 5 and 6 was replaced over a long weekend in February. The tenants on those floors sent a joint email to Priya expressing what could only be described as genuine relief mixed with mild suspicion that it had taken this long. Priya handled it. Priya handles everything. This is why you pay Priya. The water feature in the lobby was removed and replaced with a clean seating area, 2 benches, good lighting, a plant that Priya selected and which has, against all reasonable expectations, survived. The elevator got its inspection. It passed. You felt a specific relief about this that you don't think about too carefully given that you ride it every single morning. Here is the thing about owning a building that one of your tenants happens to work in. You develop an unusual relationship with the space. You notice things nobody else notices. You notice when the cleaning crew misses the windows on the south side of floor 3 for the 3rd week in a row. You notice when the hallway light on floor 4, your floor, flickers at 8:15 every morning with the specific persistence of something that wants to be replaced. You notice when the lobby plant looks like it's having a rough week. You text Priya about the plant. Priya texts back, "On it." This is the correct response. What you do not do is call the facilities line from your desk phone. What you do not do is submit a maintenance ticket through the tenant portal the way Derek from accounting did last March about the flickering hallway light, a ticket that you received as a notification on your property management dashboard at 9:14 a.m. while sitting 8 feet away from Derek. You approved the repair within 4 minutes. Derek's light was fixed by noon. Derek told the office it was about time. You agreed. You said, "Yeah, they usually respond pretty quickly to this building." This was technically true. Richard is a competent man. You want to be clear about that. He is not a villain. He is not someone you are building an elaborate revenge fantasy around. He is a 51-year-old portfolio manager who runs a tight team, sends too many emails, and has a genuinely impressive ability to make a 30-minute meeting last 45 minutes by asking follow-up questions that could have been a reply all. He hired you out of a pool of 12 candidates. He gave you genuine feedback in your first performance review. He once stayed late on a Thursday to help you untangle a model that had a circular reference buried in it somewhere, which, if you've ever tried to find a circular reference in a large Excel model, you know is either an act of genuine generosity or a very particular kind of masochism, possibly both. You respect him. You just also happen to own the building he comes to every day. These two things coexist without difficulty, most days. The moment that tests your composure most is a Thursday in November, 14 months after you close on the building. Richard calls a team meeting at 3 p.m. The agenda says, "Building management update." You feel something you have not felt in a while, something adjacent to nervousness. Not real nervousness, just the awareness that this particular meeting has a higher ceiling for awkwardness than most. Richard pulls up an email from Lakeview Asset Group, from Priya specifically, announcing a 6% increase in common area maintenance fees, effective the following quarter. Standard, completely standard. CAM reconciliations happen every year. The increase is justified by the HVAC replacement, the lobby renovation, the elevator inspection, and 3 other capital improvements that Priya documented in a 12-page report that is sitting in your inbox and which Richard has clearly not read. Richard is annoyed. Richard says, and this is close to verbatim, "These building management people act like money grows on trees." 3 people in the room nod. 1 person in the room owns the building. That person also nods, slowly, in a measured, collegial, completely neutral way. You say, "Yeah, building costs have really gone up across the board." Richard says, "Someone should push back on them." You say, "Probably worth a conversation." Richard says, "I'll have legal look at the lease terms." You say, "That makes sense." The meeting ends. You walk back to your desk. You sit down. You stare at your screen for approximately 45 seconds. Then you open your laptop, navigate to the property management portal, and review the CAM reconciliation report that Priya sent you last last week, which clearly shows that the 6% increase is not only justified but is, if anything, conservative given current market rates for comparable Class B properties in River North. You close the portal. You open the variance report. You do not say anything to anyone. This is the correct move. Richard's legal team reviews the lease. The lease, which Harwick Property Holdings drafted with the assistance of a very good real estate attorney, is airtight. Crestwood pays the CAM increase. Richard moves on. You move on. Derek moves on, though Derek is now also annoyed about the parking rate again, which has nothing to do with the CAM situation, but which Derek has somehow connected in his mind into a unified theory of building management grievance. You do not correct him. There are smaller moments. There are always smaller moments. The new coffee station in the fourth-floor kitchen was Priya's idea. She suggested it as a tenant retention amenity. A small investment, good signal to the occupants that the building is being actively managed. You approved it in under 60 seconds. Priya had it installed on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, 3 people on the 4th floor had mentioned it in passing as proof that the building management had finally gotten their act together. Richard said in the kitchen, while making his coffee, "See, when you push back, things improve." He was referring to the CAM conversation. He believed sincerely that his legal team's lease review had prompted the coffee station. It had not. The coffee station was already scheduled. You had approved it 2 weeks before the CAM meeting. You made your coffee. You said, "Good point, Richard." You meant 0% of it, but you said it warmly. Relationships require maintenance, not unlike buildings. By year 2, the building's financials look like a different document than the one you inherited from Arthur. Net operating income has increased 34%. The 7th floor is fully leased. Tenant retention across all floors is at 94%, which Priya tells you is unusually high for a Class B property in this market, and which she attributes correctly to the combination of responsive management and the coffee station. Mostly the coffee station. A commercial real estate broker contacts Harwick Property Holdings in the spring of year 2. An institutional buyer, a real estate investment trust out of Dallas, is acquiring Class B office properties in the Chicago metro. They want to know if Harwick is open to a conversation. You take the meeting on a Saturday at a coffee shop 3 miles from the office. The broker is a sharp woman named Dana, who has clearly done her homework on the building. She walks you through the REIT's interest, their valuation methodology, their timeline. She puts a number on the table. $5.8 million. You bought this building for $3.72 million 2 years ago. You have put approximately $340,000 into capital improvements. The math, if you are following along, is not complicated. You tell Dana you'll think about it. You do not perform excitement. You do not perform anything. You order another coffee and ask her 3 questions about the REIT's cap rate assumptions. Because the number on the table is good, but the assumptions behind it tell you more about how serious they are than the number itself. Her answers are good. These people know what they're doing. You tell her you'll be in touch by end of week. You drive home. You sit in the driveway for a minute. You think about Arthur and his Scottsdale golf game and his spreadsheet that hadn't been updated since the second Obama administration. You think about the 20 on the restaurant table. You think about 11 seconds in an elevator. You don't sell, not yet. The number is good, but the timing isn't right. And timing is the thing that separates a good outcome from the best available outcome. And you have learned, slowly and at some cost, to know the difference. You counterpropose a refinancing instead. The building's improved NOI supports a new valuation. You pull $680,000 in equity out of the asset through a cash-out refinance. Tax efficient, clean. That capital moves into a separate vehicle. That separate vehicle is not your problem right now. Right now, you are at your desk on the 4th floor at 9:22 a.m. on a Monday, reviewing a position report for Richard, who has just sent an email with the subject line, "Quick alignment. This week's priorities." It is the 4th such email this month. You open it, you read it, you add the items to your task list. You are a mid-level financial analyst at Crestwood Capital Management. You are also, quietly, the landlord. Both of these things are true at the same time. You have stopped finding this strange. It just is what it is. The building hums around you. HVAC running clean, elevator moving on time, lobby plant thriving against all expectations. Derek walks past your desk on the way to the kitchen. He mentions that the parking fees went up again. You look up from your screen. You say, "Yeah, that's rough." You mean it, mostly. Derek nods and keeps walking. You go back to the position report. Somewhere below you, on the 1st floor, in the lobby, the plant is doing fine. Priya picked a good one. She usually does.